David Benavidez is a fighter that many have enjoyed watching as a prospect coming through the ranks due to his aggressive style. After winning a world title at the young age of 20 for the WBC super middleweight title, big things were expected of Benavidez, but issues outside the ring and his potential lack of discipline with weight has seen him stripped twice of the title. Despite these past mistakes, Benavidez is still a fighter many fight fans believe can continue to do damage against some of the very top stars in the division. In this boxing style analysis today, I'm going to be taking a closer look in what makes Benavidez such a dangerous opponent for anyone at 168 to 175 pounds. But first up, let's take a quick look at his background. Benavidez was born into a boxing family in Phoenix, Arizona, and first put on a pair of boxing gloves at the age of 3. He also has an older brother Jose, who has also had a fairly successful career to date, even facing pound-for-pound star Terence Crawford at one point. David didn't have much amateur experience with a record of only 15-0. However, despite this amateur record, he was sparring the likes of Gennady Golovkin, Kelly Pavlik, and Peter Quillen between the ages of 14 and 15. David took the brave decision with his dad turning pro instead at the young age of 16, fighting in Mexico for his first 7 professional fights due to the US boxing regulations. After making a steady rise and building up much needed experience, David Benavidez would get his shot for the WBC super middleweight title against Gavril, a 6-foot Romanian with a tough pressure fighting stalker style. He won this in split decision, becoming the youngest world champion in boxing at the time at 20 years old. After winning this bout in a close split decision, he would once again face the Romanian, putting on a much more polished display, winning by unanimous decision. It wasn't too long after this that he would be stripped for testing positive for an illegal drug. However, after this ban, he soon came back facing Andrew Dirrell in a convincing display to show why he still deserved to be the champion. Unfortunately, Benavidez lost his title again for missing weight, and this is a concern as I really hope his ill discipline outside the ring doesn't end up haunting him again in the future. Maybe a move up to 175 pounds sooner rather than later might be a smarter option for Benavidez. But now, let's go into detail regarding his fighting style. Now, from watching Benavidez fight, it's clear overall he has an aggressive swarmer-like style. That's not to say he doesn't have other attributes, as the man from Phoenix also has good counterpunching and good use of quick combination punching, especially considering his size. However, his larger frame and bullish power are something that he relies on a lot to get advantage over his opponents. But he does a very good job by giving his opponents a false sense of comfort, which I will touch on. However, there's also many areas I still feel he needs to improve before taking on someone like Canelo and actually having a chance. But let's start with the positives he brings in the ring first. Stance and defensive guard. Now, the first thing you will probably notice about Benavidez is his tall, upright stance, which I can admit looks quite rigid at times, but he's actually quite versatile with his stance and his guard. He gets away with this for the most part thanks to his textbook high guard. He keeps it relatively high when at mid to close range, which helps protect his temple and chin, while making sure his fists are pointing forward instead of completely parallel. This makes it particularly hard for opponents to break past it with straight shots or even hooks. Another useful aspect of the guard is the fact he can defend his body shot by tucking his chin and dipping his arms in while the shot comes, or even just taking a small half step back to reduce the impact. But like with everything, there are cons to using a high guard all the time to block shots, depending where you are and in the situation in the ring. It also actively encourages your opponent to go on the offense, but the good thing for David is that he's versatile with the guard. Benavidez will make good use of this by not just blocking, but his very good use of parrying and catching shots. We've also seen Benavidez do some good work in terms of lowering his guard so he can get off his offense, in particular his spear jab from a slightly lower angle which he will throw to keep his opponents moving back. Or he'll even sometimes use a shell stance for defense, and even offense to give himself a different look or create an opening to attack his competitor. His change of stance and guard is an area that keeps his opponent thinking about what will come next. Aggressive counterpunching. Now, being a big super middleweight like Benavidez, you'd think he'd try to use his reach to his advantage all the time. However, he very much takes advantage of his high guard instead, where he looks to draw in his opponents to attack him. Many of his competitors will throw unnecessary shots and only hit the gloves or the arms and not really hit him cleanly at all. This is where we will see Benavidez wait for his opponent to throw a punch before he pitches back with a quick, powerful catch counter that aims to do damage. And once he has them hurt, Benavidez turns up the heat. Pressure fighting. Benavidez, in my opinion, is most comfortable when he's on the front foot applying pressure, but for the most part, he likes to take his time with this, and you almost get a sense that he's just waiting for the inevitable to happen. His higher guard certainly helps to draw in his opponents, and it also helps him able to get into a position to fight on the inside. But the man from Arizona takes advantage of his larger frame and power by walking down opponents that are hurt or who like to box on the back foot by trapping them in the corners. Here, Benavidez is best sitting down on his shots, throwing his famous quick combination punches. The other aspect I like about him is when applying pressure is his powerful strong spear jab from a lower guard. He uses this to help push back his opponents so he can get them on the ropes. The Arizonan will also mix it up, throwing a lead right hand before quickly shifting with his left hook. Combination and punch flurries. As just touched on, when Benavidez has you hurt or trapped in the ropes, this is where he will usually sit on his shots and throw those explosive quick combination flurries, which have taken out many opponents. It helps that he is very powerful, but he's also very quick when throwing these punches. The variation of his combinations is also very good, as he tends to throw a lot of angled hooks and uppercuts while also aiming to attack the body to open up the guard further for headshots. Inside fighting and forearm control. Now, the other area I wanted to touch on was his inside game. Usually when he's up close, he will often tower over his opponent and really try to use his size to his advantage. So, when in the trenches, he will very much look to use forearm control. Obviously holding is illegal in boxing, and I do believe refs have maybe let him get away with it on occasions, but overall he tries to be quick and efficient when doing this, as it helps him set up powerful hooks or the right hand. While this also helps keep his opponent in place so he can continue his offense. Areas to improve. Benavidez is still very much a fighter who's continuing to improve, but it's essential that he doesn't get stuck in his current ways, or I could see him losing to elite level super middleweights and light heavyweights eventually. His upper body and head movement haven't necessarily been there to date, and this is obviously due to that high guard defense he uses and catching and parrying punches instead. Nevertheless, I do worry when I see him come up against another top body puncher or 175 pounder, as I think he won't be able to stand his ground and take the punches as he has been doing. For me, far more head movement is needed in my opinion. His strength and size at the moment are helping him get through a lot of these fights, but there's been so many glimpses of him taking these unnecessary shots. Another area I'd like to see more of is him capable of boxing on the back foot. It's evidently clear this is not part of the game plan right now. As I discussed, it's more about drawing in the opponents with his high guard so he can then catch and counter them, and then look to push them back in the ropes or corners so he can get off his shots. He does take the occasional backward steps, however as time goes on and he faces top grade pressure fighters such as Canelo or a fighter just as big and strong as him, I feel more holes will start to open up, as he still likes to get hit and caught up in unnecessary firefights at times. Right now, he's getting away with it due to the size and power against lesser opponents, but if we don't see much more diversification soon against top opponents with his movement backwards, he might end up with a disappointing result. And that wraps up this boxing style analysis, guys. David Benavidez definitely has one of the most exciting boxing styles out there, and it's no wonder so many tune in to watch him. I'm really looking forward to see how he progresses over the next couple of years. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you're new here, why not subscribe? If you want to see more content like this, why not check out a potential future opponent of Benavidez and Caleb Plant. As always guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.